very warm welcome to these tutorials, which will empower you to play elementary music expressively and fluently. Number one, to cultivate and maintain a deep personal connection with the music throughout all your practice activities. This is the cornerstone of fluent expressive playing, and leaving it out at any stage will negatively affect your outcomes. And number two, to play by ear as much as possible, to take the music off the page, as my American teacher Sophia Rossoff used to say, and to put it in your mind's ear for the direct expressive coordination that this produces. In each video in this playlist, I'll be offering 2 tips that prioritize these fundamental elements of fluent expressive playing. Do please check out the other videos in this playlist as they form a series and complement each other. And do please visit pianoportals.com, where you can find out more about the joyful, holistic approach to piano technique underpinning the advice I'm giving here. Please note that I'm demonstrating these activities having already grown to know and love the musical sounds of these pieces in detail. That's why I don't have the score in front of me, but I would of course start with the score or with a recording or with both if I don't actually know the music yet. At intervals is about paying close attention to the intervals, the gaps in pitch formed by particular pitches in the melodies of your piece. You'll find that you don't need to give equal attention to every single interval in every single melody. There'll be moments where you think, oh yeah, I just remember how that goes. But if you combine it with the long range hearing and the spot the difference that we talked about in a previous video, then it can be a really powerful tool for getting to know and love and internalize new music assuredly. So if I play the main melody of the first phrase of this piece, most bars in this piece are comprised of the same little rhythmic kernel, rhythmic motif, ta, ti, ti, ta. And a lot of the actual melodies or parts of melodies are identical to one another. So I'm going to pay particular attention to when the melody leaps a long way away and to when the melody is similar but not quite the same to another statement of that motif. So at the outset, goes down 4 notes in the scale. It's a 4th. And then where does it go? That high statement of the motif, well, it goes up an octave. And don't treat this as a dry academic exercise. Actually connect with the sounds of these intervals. In other words, what does it bring to the table emotionally? The fact that you have in just bar 1 to 2 a full octave leap in the melody. Imagine that to be played by a violin or sung by a soprano or mezzo soprano. What does that bring emotionally to the melody? And then good news, once you've got up the octave, the gap between those last 2 notes is the same. It's another 4th. And then in the third little component of the phrase, the gap's narrower by one step in the scale. And instead of that rather expansive fourth, you've got a much closer together third, a minor third. And again, it's not essential that you know the names or the academic names of all these intervals. It's just paying enough attention to them so you feel like, oh yes, that's the wider one, that's the really wide one, and that's the closer together one. That's absolutely fine. And then when the whole thing's restated, what's the difference? And how does that affect the tone of voice, the inflection? So before it was which is both narrower and unresolved in terms of its stability, and the second time it goes down below the key note, the tonic, which is D, because we're in D minor, and then resolves on that key note. Cello Continuo is acknowledging that this early music probably would have often been played in the format of a voice and other instruments and a cello and a harpsichord or clavichord or organ playing what's called the continuo, which is the bass part and chords which would have fitted with that bass. And this is just about finding that cello part and imagining how it would sound on a cello. I would listen to some Baroque cello playing and notice how the variety of articulation is such a wonderful expressive device in that music. So if I play the lower stave music in the second half of the piece, and what I'm going to do is leave out the extra notes, if you like, the notes that Purcell has notated with the note stem going the other way. So if the main note has the stem up, then the extra note has the stem down, and vice versa. So I'm going to leave out those first and find a really nice, flowing, meaningful cello melody. And again, you can compare the two phrases. So you've got that really strident opening of the fifth and then going to the octave above that first. And in a moment, you have it again, but at a different pitch. But what happens the two times? Well, the first time, it just comes down and then back and resolves. The second time, it goes down and then it carries on, kind of dovetails to the next phrase. Piano portals is a truly holistic approach, and given that, I can only go so far into it with these little snippets of advice. In these tutorials, I'm starting where I would always recommend that you start, with principles 1 and 2 of 7 from piano portals, which is first, to connect deeply and personally with the music at all stages and throughout all activities, and number 2, to play by ear as much as possible. Piano portals is about meeting you where you are, not doing a load of unnecessary activities for the sake of it, but becoming the expert over time on your own playing coordination, leaving things well alone if they're already working fine, but bring your increasing self-awareness to elements of your coordination that may require freeing up or integrating further. So there may be subtle refinements in the rest of your playing coordination that could empower you further to play more expressively and fluently. And for this, I highly recommend that you visit pianoportals.com and check out the ever-increasing range of online courses, ebooks, tutorials and cheat sheets on offer to open-minded pianists and teachers like yourself. And please don't hesitate to be in touch with any queries or questions or your responses to these tutorials. I'd love to hear how you're getting on with these pieces.